For Chapter 17 in CIST 2611, we'll look at cyber terrorism. The objective of this chapter is to defend against computer-based espionage, employ defenses against computer-based terrorism, choose the appropriate defense strategies for your network, and also to employ defenses against information warfare. So this chapter discusses the uses of computer networks as the basis for spying and terrorism attacks. In this chapter, you're going to learn several methods used in computer-based espionage and terrorism and techniques for defending against them. First, we have to ask, why do people engage in espionage? There are a couple of different reasons. One of them may be economic gain, where they're going to be compensated by some other party for the data. Maybe a grudge that they have, feel that they've been wronged in some way and they want revenge. Or it may be that they're just opposed to some course of action that the organization is taking and they want to disrupt it. So we have to learn how to defend against espionage as well. A couple of things here is that we can, well, first let's define what espionage is. So it's the act of spying on a person or organization by gaining unauthorized access to information about that person or organization. So a couple of ways we can defend against espionage is always use reasonable network security. We use a need-to-know approach on information access. We stay with the principles of least privilege. With sensitive data, we use a separation of duties approach. So not one person has access to everything. Limit the use of portable storage media. And also do not allow employees to take documents or media home. We also make sure we shred documents or melt old disk or tape, backups, CDs, perform employee background checks, make sure that you scan terminated employees' PCs very carefully, and keep your sensitive data, backups, and other media under lock and key with limited access. Now, ultimately, though, it's going to be up to each organization. They must decide what steps to include as they're defending against espionage. There's another ways that we can also help to defend against espionage, includes encrypting the hard drives of portable computers, because this now helps against theft. One of the most popular ones is BitLocker. You have to have a key to actually access the material to even log into the system. Also, make all employees with access to the sensitive data sign a non-disclosure statement. Now, there are a lot of harm that can come from terroristic attacks. Some of these may be direct economic damage, disruption of economics, compromising sensitive or military data, and also disrupting of mass communication. These are all things that can be effects of a terrorist attack. So when we look at some of these, first we'll look at economic attacks. Now keep in mind that all information has some essential value. Okay, so it needs to be protected, not only from theft, but also from destruction. So keep in mind that you can put a value on that data of what is the data worth to your organization, and also what is the cost you had to obtain the data, and what was the cost to replace the data if it could be replaced. So you can think about it as one of the big things is your brand could be damaged. That could decrease the company's worth overall. Now, if you look at scenarios on page 450 and 451, in there, you're going to see that there's no low security systems when it comes to defending against cyber attack, cyber terrorism. Now, when we look at compromising defenses, these are attacks that are directed at reducing the defense of a nation. These may be DoD attacks, CIA systems, or DoD systems. CIA systems are targets, government, military, logistical systems. Those are all targets for a defense attack. Now, when we talk about general attacks, um, this is something that's not necessarily going to be focused on one target. We have a denial of service attacks, viruses, Trojan horses. These are all different types of methods that are used in these types of attacks. Generally, these are going to be done for some kind of economic reason, um, or just to cause chaos, economic chaos. Now, these steps that we're going to talk about here, these are not going to entirely eliminate the dangers, but they can reduce the vulnerability to them. Some things that businesses or individual organizations can do, they can ensure the security is tight as practical. Keep in mind, if you have way too much security, your convenience comes down. So you want to find a balance between security and convenience. They want to make sure they perform adequate background checks, make sure your employees that you're hiring are who they say they are, and then can pass the background check. Report any security incidents to proper authorities. Now, on the state and national level defenses, one of the ways we can increase our defense is to have greater law enforcement attention to computer crimes. Also have better training for law enforcement. And you get this also with having the industry involvement and the federal government involvement as well. Propaganda. This is putting an undisclosed political spin planted to a different political group's position. So what their goal is to confuse the public into thinking the propaganda is objective reporting. Now, information control, this is also something that can be used to change the public's perception. And this is going to be affected by the amount and type of information available and the language used. You'll hear a lot of information control going through political, military conflicts. We hear it when we have elections. One side will make claims against the other. Military, we have that as well when we have military conflicts. Some examples they have here is the Vietnam War, the Cold War. You also have this in marketing efforts to where one group tries to say we're better than the other group, our product's better than another similar product, and this is why. And it may be that they're trying to use information, studies, and those type things, taste tests, for example, if you're having two soft drinks. And it's always going to be slanted to make it look like the information will be more on the side of the person giving the information out. A packet sniffer. Now, when we're talking about packet sniffer, this is an application that intercepts packets on a network or the internet. It then copies that contents for analysis. May have a raw dump of the contents in hexadecimal format. Some of these are more sophisticated ways to give the information out. Now, keep in mind that spyware must be installed on the target computer to gather information. These packet sniffers do not have to be installed on the target system to collect the data. Wireshark, for example, this is something that's used. It's free software. It's used by Windows and Macs. Has an easy-to-use GUI. But what this does is it gets details on any packet and the TCP stream associated with it. And then from there, you can go in and use different filters to drill down on the data to get real specific on what you're looking for. So when we talk about what information can be gained by packet sniffers, we can get the source IP address of the packet. So where did it come from? The destination IP of where it's going, what protocols are used, and also the contents of the packet. And this is something that's usually in a hexadecimal form that can be used to gather information.